Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone's at home. Thank God you didn't witness that, huh? 2-1 to Wolves. They've done the double over us, taken the 6 points to Gary O'Neill masterclasses tactically, taking the points against Tottenham. Mid-table teams doing the double over the Champions League 4 spot favourites. A lot to analyse, guys, and I'll be entirely honest, there's not a lot of positives. You know, I try to be as balanced as I can, and I do want to reinforce this message, because I get a lot of heat at the moment from a lot of the comments saying, you know, you're moaning too much, everything's too negative. But this is a post-match fan show, so we're not talking about the bigger picture. We're not zooming out 10,000 feet and recognising that we're 6-7 months into a project. I acknowledge that. I know that there's far more positives in general than there are things to complain about. And I've got a lot of excitement and positive energy for the future under Ange. But this is a post-match fan show. And when you're analysing a match, you put all that stuff to one side and you just talk about what happened in the match. And today, Wolves outclassed us. Tactically, they were dominant in every area of the pitch. When we got the ball forward, they were as structurally tight defensively as one could hope to be. I think they won the midfield battle in the latter stages of the second half, when the game was in flux, in balance, when it was 1-1. We were looking for more creativity and it wasn't really coming. And obviously at the back end of the pitch, if it wasn't for probably the only two really positive things that I will say at the get-go here, which was Mickey van der Ven once again and Vicario once again, if it wasn't for those two, we could have been on the end of a 4 or 5-1 loss today. It could have been a lot worse. I'm just being honest. You know, Vicario put in 2 or 3 absolute world-class saves. Mickey van der Ven got us out of trouble a number of times. Everybody else, it didn't really feel like it was working. It didn't feel like Sonny off the left. Didn't really feel like he was at it. Maddison was sloppy at times. I think he was trying his best, trying to be creative, but there was no rhythm. There was no cadence to our ball playing capabilities today, and that's what frustrates me. Is that it seems to be, you know, history doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. And of late, I'm seeing a hell of a lot of things that in today's game that I saw in last week's game, and in the game against Everton, and in the game against Brentford. And you know, go back 4 or 5, 6 games, you see the same sort of trends happening here, and you have to start to wonder whether it's by Tottenham's design or whether it's by the opposition design. And those trends are, Tottenham start fast. We own the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game. It's usually ours. And then we sit back. If we don't get the lead, or even if we do, we seem to kind of fall back into our shell a little bit and offer up too much space, too much wiggle room in the wide areas to the opposition. They know where the space is going to be, even though today we had a whole different structural setup at the back. We had Emerson and Ben Davies versus Porro and Udogie, and of course that is like a meaningful absence of our two kind of cornerstone parts of this offensive on the ball system weren't there. And so I will take that and remember that when I kind of critique the on-the-ball stuff. But the fact that they weren't there, the fact that we had 2 other sort of players in there that are more defensively minded, you would think that we would then be able to handle and cope with the defensive side of the off-the-ball side of the game better than we did, and we didn't. We were weak, we were poor. And as I said at the start, you know, in the opening gambit, I feel like Tottenham could have been have conceded 4 today. We could have held 4 or 5 at times. I don't remember Tottenham really creating much, apart from in that second half, that first 5 minutes. And again, back to this kind of rhythmic cadence of our football, it feels to me like Tottenham are doing this every game. We start the game well in the first half, then we give up the second half of the first half, and most Tottenham fans that sit around me walk away and go in for a half-time sausage roll, feeling like we didn't own the first half in any way, shape or form. We started well, but then it was theirs. And then they all say now at half-time, you watch, we'll come out for the second half, and we will own the first 10-15 minutes, and we did again today. From the 45th minute until the 60th, it was us. It was all us. We were dominant, and we got the early goal in the 46th minute. Kulusevski, it was the other end of the pitch, so I couldn't really see exactly the details of it, but we were in control, and we were looking like we were going to go and get that second. But again, it didn't come, and then from the 60th minute on, we sat back. We had a lot of possession, and this is where one of those, you know, some people were going to reflect and say, well, look at the stats, right? They didn't dominate us. They didn't control the game. We had the majority of the lion's share of the possession, and I would say that's not how it felt. That's not how it looked. I felt like they offered us the possession, but they just got back into a rigid 5 and a rigid 4, and they sat narrow. And when we made our changes, you bring on Timo Werner and Brennan Johnson, and those guys are also sitting narrow. When you're trying to break down a team and you have all that position and you're playing that kind of horseshoe football where you take the ball down the right and you realise there's no access point, so you bring it back, you recycle it across the central and go down the left-hand side and recycle it. Horseshoe football, I call it, and I feel like it's very frustrating. It comes across like you run out of ideas, and then when the opposition just tuck in and become super narrow, you need your wingers to stand out on the touchline and to draw out the fullbacks, to create the space in the middle for a Maddison or a Bentancur or whoever else, a Højbjerg even at the end there, to kind of have some more space. We weren't doing it. We weren't doing it at all. There's massive question marks for me around this system. This is not a question mark about Ange Postecoglou. Again, I always feel like I have to kind of remind the viewers, the audience, that this is not me kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because when you zoom out and you realise and remember that we're far ahead of schedule in terms of what we were looking for this season. I was expecting 6th, 7th, 8th, with 5th. But you know what? Manchester United are going to be chomping at the bit to close down that gap, and we'll be on our coattails. Aston Villa won today, away 2-1 at Fulham. I said we need 8 wins. We needed 8 wins, and when you look at our run-in and our fixtures, you needed 3 points today at Wolves. From Wolves, you needed to look at that fixture and say that's one of the bankers. If you're trying to find 8 wins in the last 15, 14, whatever it is we have left, 13 now, then if you need 8 to get your 24 points, which would take us to 71. Wolves was the gimme, and we didn't earn it. We didn't own it. We didn't deserve it. And it's not all because Udogie and Porro wasn't there. Cunha wasn't there for Wolves. They outplayed us. I think that the tactics were poor. I don't know whether it's by design from Ange or whether it's the players not thinking for themselves. There's very little in-game management from Ange. He sits there and watches the game with his arms folded across his chest. He doesn't communicate very much with the team during the game, and so any changes that he wants to infiltrate or implement into the kind of the consciousness of the team, he has to wait until half-time, and once that's done, that's it. Unless you're going to get a Ryan Mason or one of the other guys to come on and communicate, which doesn't happen too often either, then essentially after half-time, it's left to the team to figure it out, and I don't think they are. There's very little leadership on the pitch. There really isn't. Again, guys, for me, really bad day at the office. No positives apart from Vicario and apart from Van der Ven. I thought Bissouma handled himself pretty well from Italian. I thought he had a decent game for the most part. I think he was sloppy at times as well. And I thought Pape Sarr was covering so much ground. Once again, he's looking to move when other people are stagnant and stale and playing Sabutio football where there's just lots of people just hanging around. He's always moving, which is a positive. But Richarlison, I see a lot of people talking about the stats saying Richarlison, he's got 9 goals and there's no one who takes fewer touches to score the goals he scores. And I kind of reverse engineer that statistic and say the reason why that is because if he does touch the ball more than once or twice, he ends up losing it. He's not a good enough footballer. Today was kind of reverting to type. He's had a very good period of form. I'm not throwing him under the bus specifically. I thought the entire front three, the entire front line were awful. I thought Decky had a stinker today. Didn't think he was anywhere near good enough. Sonny, poor. Maddison, not back from fitness, not fully fit yet. I know a lot of you guys are going to be saying this is overly negative, overly harsh. I'm just being honest with you guys. I'm not going to sit here and placate you and tell you that I think things are better than they are because I want those likes. If you dislike the video, so be it. If you do like the video, then make sure you hit the like button. But look, today, massively frustrating, but it's felt like it's coming. I wasn't confident going into this game. Wolves have got the edge over us statistically, and they deserve the win today. Anyone who says otherwise, I think, is being disingenuous. I really do. I think there's so much that we have to figure out, but at the same time, we have to be more adaptable. We have to be able to, just change things. I think that we don't have any nastiness, any kind of willingness to mess around and wind up the opposition. Wolves today, little things that Wolves were doing that were so, it might seem insignificant in isolation, but actually kind of when they all multiply upon themselves, they actually do have a meaningful output. rolling around when the tackles happen, when the player's injured and he's injured off the pitch, but he rolls back onto the pitch and it winds the fans up. That stuff doesn't help Tottenham, that helps Wolves. When fans get irritated by that, it adds to the kind of the flavour of the away team kind of getting one over and kind of winning the mind games. Even things like when they won the toss and they made us change ends. You know, Tottenham always walk out and they start on the south side of the pitch, and if they win the toss or lose the toss, generally speaking, they attack the south stand for the second half. Today, for the first time I've noticed ever, Wolves won the toss and made us change ends. Made us attack the south stand in the first half, not the second half. Don't know how meaningful it was, but I believe it is. I believe it is meaningful, and I believe that those sorts of little things, it's the minutiae of how to win the tiny battles that when you add them up, they end up having a meaningful impact. And I think that once again, Gary O'Neill had the better of Ange Postecoglou in the tactics today. But I'm not blaming this on Ange. I'm blaming this one on the players. I thought the players didn't up their game. They weren't there. Most of them. There was a lot of sloppy passes, a lot of misplaced passes, a lot of kind of thoughtlessness and a lack of creativity. If Maddison's not on it, then Tottenham don't seem to be on it. But there was no width today. There was no ability to tag people on. Guys, listen, I feel like I was trying to come into this looking for positives, but I've ended up speaking to you for 12 minutes about the negatives. There really wasn't any positives. I'm frustrated. I'm fed up. This is another one of those games. I felt like it was coming. We got away with one at Brighton. Everton were right to pull us back at the last minute. I'm not sure Tottenham deserve to be 4th or 5th in the Champions League race. If we somehow find a way to hang on, then it will be remarkable. As it stands, Tottenham need more. We need more from the players on the pitch. We need more creativity in the kind of tactical structure of our setup. We need to do things slightly differently, and we need to have a higher frequency of cadence. And I don't think we're having it at the moment. We look to control minutes and moments of games. We don't have a fluidity to our system, and I've been saying it for a while, and today I think the issues that we're seeing, that I've been seeing, came home to roost. I'm sure you're not going to like this review, but it is what it is. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm frustrated. I'm wound up. Maybe tomorrow morning, when I wake up and I've slept on it and I review the game, maybe I'm going to have a bit more positive things to say. But for now, I don't know. It's not good enough, guys. It's not good enough. That doesn't mean that I'm anti anything that's going on. I still very much am on board the process, the project. But this is an analysis of the game, and there wasn't very much to talk about that was great in the game. You've got to win the midfield battle if you want to win the games, and today Bissouma, Sarr and Maddison didn't handle it. And when we did get the ball, the front three, not good enough. Emerson and Ben Davies, as much as they're utility players, the loss of Udogie and Porro was meaningful and significant. But in those scenarios, you have to adapt. You can't rely on your front 11, your first 11 the whole time. Guys, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to go and do what people do after a game. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.